But the true reality, the actual cause of any suffering in Cuba is the United States not just blocking trade with the United States, but acting extraterritorially, working to block Cuba's trade with other countries. And that is vile, because no communist, no socialist says that trade isn't good. Everybody agrees that trade is good. So if you tell a country, especially a small island country, they can't trade, of course you're going to impoverish them. That's the point.
Let's mold in the Central Committee. Let's cringe in the Central Committee. Let's fog in the Central Committee right now.
All right. Let's get on to the AOC tweets and whether they are based or not. AOC tweets on Cuba. Based or cringe? First of all, let's look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden condemns socialism. President Joe Biden said on Thursday that Cuba is a failed state and called communism a failed system as protests play out against the Caribbean nation's repressive regime. During a news conference with German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Biden said that the United States is looking into ways to possibly reinstate access to the internet in Cuba, but indicated that the U.S. is not considering reestablishing U.S. to Cuba remittances, the practice of Americans transferring money to their Cuban relatives, over concerns that the regime would confiscate the funds. Cuba is unfortunately a failed state repressing their citizens. There are a number of things we would consider doing to help the people of Cuba, but it would require a different circumstance or a guarantee that they would not be taken advantage of by the government. For example, the ability to send remittances back to Cuba. We would not allow that now because the fact is that it's highly likely the regime would confiscate those remittances or big chunks of it. He's a liar. He's a liar. If the government was taking the remittances, people wouldn't send them. If they were just going to the government, then no one would send them. He's just a lying idiot. He's just a fraud. Anyway, or big chunks of it. When asked about his views on communism, the president added, communism is a failed system, a universally failed system, and I don't see socialism as a very useful substitute. But that's another story. Thousands of Cubans took to the streets across the... By the way, chat, most of the center-left parties in Europe are either called socialist parties or social democratic parties. Joe Biden is literally attacking the center-left in Europe and around the world. Only in America is this dumbass take made. And this is why I tweeted something earlier today that, no one really cared about because, again, very few socialists in America. The Democratic Party does everything it can to promote conservative parties in other Western countries. Biden is following in Obama's footsteps, who endorsed centrist Macron, and Obama's 2012 campaign manager, Jim Messina, went to work for the Conservative Party in the 2015 British elections. Listen to him praising Angela Merkel.
Madam Chancellor, I know that the partnership between Germany and the United States will continue to grow stronger on the foundation that you have helped to build. Thank you again, Angela, for making the journey, for our productive meeting today, and for your friendship.
From June 30th, 2017, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said on Friday she voted against legalizing gay marriage, given her personal view that marriage should be between a man and a woman. To me, marriage is the basic law. For marriage, the basic law is marriage between a man and a woman, and that's why I did not vote in favor of this bill today, she told reporters. Wow. What a leader. That's who they're sucking. That's who they're supporting. It's sucking at the teat up. Real. Yeah, let's prop her up, guys. Oh, wait, the Democrats, they really care about LGBTQ rights. That's why we have to go. Wait, what? Wait, what? Oh, fucking fraud. Thousands of Cubans took to the streets across the island nation last weekend to protest chronic shortages of basic goods, curbs on civil liberties, and the government's handling of the worsening coronavirus outbreak, marking the most significant unrest in decades. The United States has continued to embargo Cuba even during the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in shortages of basic goods like syringes. Now, Cuba, even under American blockade, has developed their own vaccine. The tiny island nation of Cuba has developed their own COVID-19 vaccine, but they lack the syringes because they're under blockade. Under the Obama administration, Cuba oversaw the reopening of embassies and relaxing of many restrictions long in place since the embargo, but the Trump administration enacted some of the toughest economic measures against Cuba in decades, reinstated travel restrictions, and before leaving office, named Cuba a state sponsor of terrorism. On Friday, Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel responded to Biden's comments by calling on him to repeal Trump's moves. If President Joe Biden really had humanitarian concerns for Cuban people, he would eliminate the 243 measures applied by President Donald Trump, including 50 imposed cruelly during the pandemic. The U.S. has failed in its attempts to destroy Cuba, although by trying to achieve it, it has wasted millions of dollars. Biden said he was ready to send COVID-19 vaccines to Cuba, but the nation has not joined the International Vaccine Coalition, COVAX, with whom the U.S. is working closely. They can't afford to buy the vaccines. They don't have hard currency to buy vaccines. I'd be prepared to give significant amounts of vaccine if, in fact, I was assured the international organization would administer those vaccines and would do it in a way that average citizens would have access to those vaccines, he continued. The president volunteered information about reinstating internet access in Cuba, telling reporters, "We're considering whether we have the technological ability to reinstate that access." Fucking disgusting. All right, chat. Now it's time to look at AOC's tweets on this. And you tell me whether you think these are based tweets or cringe. Based or cringe. We stand in solidarity with the Cuban people and condemn the suppression of the media, speech, and protest. We also call for an end to the U.S. embargo and additional Trump-era restrictions that are profoundly contributing to the suffering of Cubans. We are seeing Cubans rise up and protest for their rights like never before. We stand in solidarity with them, and we condemn the anti-democratic actions by President Diaz-Canel. The suppression of the media, speech, and protests are all gross violations of human rights. We must also name the U.S. contribution to Cuban suffering, our 60-year embargo. Last month, once again, the UN voted overwhelmingly to call on the United States to lift its embargo on Cuba. The embargo is absurdly cruel, and like too many other U.S. policies targeting Latin Americans, the cruelty is the point. I outright reject the Biden administration's defense of the embargo. It is never acceptable for us to use cruelty as a point of leverage against everyday people. Now, I have a couple thoughts on this. First is, why are people protesting? People are protesting because of shortages of goods. Shortages of goods are directly related and are in fact caused by the U.S. embargo. It's really just that simple. You know what will help end anti-democratic actions? Allowing Cuba to trade with the rest of the world without U.S. interference. The U.S. is the cause. And if Cuba is so weak and so unpopular with the people, then why not allow trade? It's not like we really care about human rights. It's not the reason why we're embargoing Cuba. It has nothing to do with human rights. That's a lie. We trade with China. We trade with Saudi Arabia. We trade with Pakistan. What's the human rights record of China and compared to Cuba? Like, come on, man. Just stop lying. Stop pretending like it has anything to do with human rights. It's disgusting. It's a joke. It's bullshit. The reason why we have an embargo on Cuba is the people who fled the revolution live in Florida, which is an electorally college significant state. And anybody who wants to win the presidency oftentimes has to go through Florida. Now, Biden didn't, but he wants that to be a swing state. And those Cuban exiles are important swing voters. And this is their big issue, is punishing the Cuban slaves that dared revolt against them. They're mad at all their domestic workers and plantation workers who had the gall to demand human rights. So I would say that this is based, but also cringe. I'm going to take the centrist point of view and say that this is based cringe or cringe. It's both. That's the reality. That's the reality. The Cubans here will not vote Democrat. They're fucking fascist. Oh, no, I agree. They're white. They're white right-wingers. Mike from Sitting on a Fence. I know, right? I'd say the first half of this message would not be necessary but for the second half. And I know why she's saying the thing at the top, because she's trying to protect the Democratic Socialist brand. Because there's nothing more that what Republicans and Democrats want to do is go, look, they want to make America Cuba. They want to make America Venezuela. Venezuela, Cuba. They want to make America Venezuela, Cuba. So she makes this dumbass take. And listen, I'm sure there are anti-democratic actions being taken by Cuba. There are repressive actions being taken by the Cuban government in self-defense from United States interference, but nonetheless, anti-democratic. The United States of America, when they're at war, does anti-democratic actions as well. And we condemn those no matter where they are. But the true reality, the actual cause of any suffering in Cuba is the United States not just blocking trade with the United States, but acting extraterritorially, working to block Cuba's trade with other countries. And that is vile, because no communist, no socialist says that trade isn't good. Everybody agrees that trade is good. That some places are going to have different advantages and different just think common sense. In some places, you're going to be able to grow tropical fruit better than in Iowa. So if Iowa wants tropical fruit, they've got to trade with a place that has tropical fruit. And Iowa grows corn better. So Iowa trades their corn for tropical fruit, and everybody's better off. Doesn't matter what economic system you have on top of that. So if you tell a country, especially a small island country, they can't trade, of course you're going to impoverish them. That's the point. The U.S. never condemns the violence perpetuated by the ESAMAD in Colombia or the Carbonaros. I don't know how to say that. In Chile. Yeah. The violence against peaceful protesters in Colombia, no one says a fucking word. We just send billions of dollars and we train their death squads. Thing is, her first half is for like three people. Conservative liberals will say disingenuous BS that she wants America to become Cuba. The statement for Cuba is raising up. Won't stop people from attacking her, though. No shit. I agree with you. I'm just telling you what their logic is. Their logic is she's trying to remain consistent, right? Anytime someone does something anti-democratic, she's going to call it out. That's what's attempting to happen here. But I see her being a useful idiot for the right. That's why I call this cringe. Because she's being a useful idiot for the right. But the second half is where she's valuable. She's rejecting Biden. She's calling out the embargo. And she's saying stuff that, quite frankly, is not said on American media. And Americans don't even hear this shit. They don't hear this second half. Which is why it's important. And this is also why Bernie and AOC are not the most left you could possibly be. But them gaining prominence and them gaining power gives space for people even more to the left. So I'm going to say first half is cringe. Second half is the information that's valuable. Why do you think there are sanctions? Well, I'll help you out because you seem clueless. The State Department laid it out themselves. A majority of Cubans supports their government and Cuba is socialist. U.S. wants to overthrow the government, so they sanction the country so that the people start hating their government. This is literally written in government records. Of course it is. It's not even half. It's literally just 2 sentences. Yeah. I think if you're part of the anti-imperial left, which I hope all of us here are, you get super annoyed when you hear... when you read the first 3 sentences or the first 2 lines, because every other right-wing liar is out there saying that shit. We don't need to hear it again. We don't need to hear it again. But what is valuable is the second half of what she's saying, because this is what we hear. This is what we hear, chat. Miami's mayor says the U.S. should consider airstrikes against Cuba. He is a registered Republican, but the office of the city of Miami mayor is nonpartisan. Why is Miami voting for Republicans? Why is Miami voting for a Republican? Suarez is a cryptocurrency-friendly politician who has promoted the development of Miami as a cryptocurrency hub. Good. Yeah. Put all the servers in Miami so that when climate change sinks the city, all the cryptocurrency is destroyed. Oh my god. Look at this. Oh my god. Can we get the video of him talking? What do you think of Squirrel's takes on AOC? She's probably... I like Squirrel, but I'm much more pro AOC and pro Bernie than Squirrel is. All right, Squirrel is covering this. Hold on.
So I was hate watching some Fox News, and I noticed that they blurred a couple signs here, and I was able to actually find what the signs say. And you're not gonna believe it. It's absolutely damning to the communist government. It says the streets belong to the revolutionaries. You think any of our audience speaks Spanish? Probably not, but you better blur it anyway.
These pro-Cuban demonstrations in Bolivia are bigger than the couple hundred people's marching, waving U.S. flags in Cuba, which the entire deranged Western professional media class dubbed the greatest revolutionary uprising in Cuban history. Yeah, I know, it's garbage. AOC is intentionally trying to stoke opposition to the Cuban Revolution by lying about the protests. Even at the highest estimation, it was a few thousand people, and she says Cubans rose up like never before. That is a pure fabrication. She is an imperialist propagandist. Okay, we're gonna disagree here. AOC, the imperialist hack, met Lula, the anti-imperialist, soon to be president of Brazil, who told the truth about the insignificant protests in his statement, where he also expressed solidarity with the Cuban Revolution instead of the few hundred people waving U.S. flags. What is happening in Cuba that is so special that they talk so much? There was a march. I even saw the president of Cuba at the march talking to people. Cuba has already suffered 60 years of U.S. economic blockade, even so, more so with the pandemic. It is inhumane. What makes AOC's statement about Cubans rising up like never before all the more deranged is that the pro-revolution protests were much bigger, yet she says nothing about them at all. It's almost as if they didn't happen. This is Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz level imperialist propaganda. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say Squirrel is being overheated here. I frankly, as I said before, the first half is cringe, but the reason why she's doing it is because she's trying to prevent people from going, Bernie and AOC want to make America like Cuba and Venezuela. And in the political valiance of America, that attack is more dangerous than AOC is an imperialist. I'm going to be honest with you. Americans don't care. Now, the real question is, what is AOC suggesting as policy? And what I see here is dialogue with Cuba and lifting the embargo. Now, you could say she's creating space for the imperialists. But in Brazil, the left is much more in touch with defending Castro and Cuba and the left. The pink tide is anti-American, and it's a totally different political valence. So like AOC, Bernie Sanders, they support Lula. Lula endorsed Bernie. They understand the difference between AOC and Joe Biden. How about you start to understand the difference between AOC and Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden? That's why Bolivian President Evo Morales endorsed Bernie. They get it. They know that Bernie and AOC are not on the side of imperialism. You're quite frankly helping the imperialists by attacking AOC. If AOC said intervene in Cuba, I'm with you 100%. If AOC spends any effort going, we should be doing sanctions, we should be bombing, we should be blah, 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 then I'll agree with you that she's doing imperialist propaganda. But saying they rose up or they're protesting, they rise up and protest for their rights. Okay, first of all, I gotta say, that first sentence is super wrong. Thank you, Yoshi.
A repressive government and a cruel U.S. embargo. They deserve policies that empower them and help them improve their lives. Do you think that President Biden...
I like Squirrel, but I'm just saying, like, the difference between AOC and Bernie and Joe Biden is obvious to Evo Morales. It's obvious to Lula. We should try our best, and we should correct her and say, don't be cringe. Don't be cringe. Just focus on the embargo, which is the shit we're doing.
Biden, looking at this situation, will lift that embargo, and do you think that's what he should do?
I feel like people forget how bad they reacted to Bernie Sanders praising the Cuban literacy program. Exactly. Like, you've got to be... Bernie Sanders and AOC and everybody has gone out of their way to already defend Cuba and Venezuela.
No, I don't think the embargo is...
Being unable to manage your expectations about politicians isn't the same political own that the chat thinks it is. Here's what I say about people like AOC and Bernie. They're going to say stuff that I disagree with. The question is, whose side are you on? Whose side are you on? Are you on the side that's arguing for the embargo? They're not. She literally went out of her way to say lift the embargo. That's what the Cuban government wants. The Cuban government wants AOC to make the argument she can make to lift the embargo on Cuba. Spending your time attacking someone saying lift the embargo is stupid. It's stupid. Stop spending your time attacking somebody who's saying lift the embargo. I'm sorry, it's just dumb to do that. Attack Joe Biden. Attack the psychotics that are arguing in favor of bombing Cuba. Bernie and AOC are American politicians. Right now, there is no left political presence in government. They're using their leverage to navigate those waters while building something. The working class is still where the actual leftist movement is and happens to be in the U.S.
Cool at all. And I think that the Cuban people are not asking for it.
And here's what I say. Here's what I'll say, and I've always said. If you look at the situation in Cuba and your focus is on the protests and the Cuban government, you're lying. You're fucking lying. You just are.
Lifting of the embargo. They're going out in the streets every single day.
It probably would have been better if she led with the embargo. I agree with that. In which situation would you support an embargo? When we have an active enemy we're at war with. That's that. And what would be an enemy to be at war with? A fascist government. AOC's statement could have been better. She's a counter-revolutionary hack now. Would you support an embargo against the U.S.? Well, here's what I would support an embargo. When a country is got a minority population that's in, say, an apartheid state, say they have millions of people in occupied territories that are run by the military and they don't have a vote, where they have their own second-class citizens or non-citizens in a blockade, where they bomb civilian, they're doing constant bombing raids on the civilian populations, killing hundreds of children. That's where I would consider doing an embargo.
Talking about the failure of the communist regime to provide for its people.
The standard CIA practice with coups is to hype any protest bigger than it is, trying to create a domino effect. That's true. You're absolutely right about that.
And I don't understand why that's so difficult for people to understand. It has failed for 6 decades. And what should be being contemplated right now is a coalition of potential military action in Cuba, similar to what has happened in both administrations, in both Republican and Democrat administrations. In Republican with Bush in Panama, they deposed Noriega, and that country had peaceful democracy for decades. And you had interventions by Democratic presidents, taking out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. It's a sovereign country where they took out a terrorist that probably saved thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives, and President Clinton in Kosovo, intervening in a humanitarian issue with airstrikes. So there have been many, many opportunities in the history.
Are you suggesting airstrikes in Cuba?
What I'm suggesting is that option is one that has to be explored and cannot be just simply discarded as an option that is not on the table. And there's a variety of ways the military can do it, but that's something that needs to be discussed and needs to be looked at as a potential option, in addition to a variety of other options that can be discussed.
Airstrikes in Cuba. Hey, Florida Democrats, can you get rid of the Republicans in one of your biggest cities? This dude's city is literally falling apart into the sea. Why is he worried about Cuba? Because he's a right-wing psycho. We do politics here every morning starting at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us here on Twitch. We're the morning guy. The morning politics guy. Politics Frogs in every single day. Same time, 10 a.m. Day in, day out. And we carry you through your morning and early afternoon politics needs. And if you need more, Mike from PA, we have a YouTube channel. We talked about suburbs, the My Pillow guy, Ted Cruz. We talked about DSA. Amazing. Making fun of Tim Pool. Amazing. Look at all of these amazing videos. Get in there, watch them. We have me on Twitter. You got to follow me on Twitter, chat. I'm at 20,614 subs. That means I got like 40 followers on Twitter in the last day. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. Go follow us on Twitter. And of course, join the Discord, where we have an incredible community of left-wing streamers. We have left-wing community. We talk about the stream. We talk about politics. There's gaming content. It's a really awesome, supportive place. Direct action, mutual aid. And you can just let off some steam. And also, you can help produce the show. One of the things I do is I look at the links that are put into the news content suggestions chat room on the Discord. Join the Discord, come hang out, and maybe what you want me to talk about will be part of the next show.